Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. There we go. All right. Um, we got a couple people here already. Um, what we're tonight, of course, is our last of our news nights this week. Tomorrow night we'll be doing, of course, our historical comic retrospect. Um, let's see now. Just gonna give it a few minutes, give people a chance to come in. See, I hope everybody's had a good week. If you haven't already, if you guys can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here we talk about tonight grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. Um, as such, here. We do have a couple. I guess I can get started a little early here since look like we have a couple of people here. Um, So tonight, what we're going to do is we're gonna. I got a couple of stories to go over. One is not as much from a news article, but just a big news item that's come out today about the Funimation Crunchyroll merger. As that's coming down to its final stages of happening. Um, some news came out today that was covered by a number of commentators, including Vera Dark, Yellow Flash, among others. And also a little bit of a sad piece of news today as a Japanese mangaka apparently committed suicide over over a TV adaptation of her manga. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about, as I said, we'll talk about, um, of course, the bit all the day's niche news and all that. As we're right now just focusing in on. Uh, Anyways, all right. So with that, why don't we go with? We just check one last thing, and then we will probably get started. All right. Anyways, alrighty then. So let's go ahead and get going here. Um, all right. All right. So first off, I'm going to talk a little bit, and I'm going to go more free. Not going to do it as much from an article, only because apparently none of neither Bounding in the Cons nor Bleeding Full has written an article on this story yet, but it's been covered by a number of the YouTube commentators, as I said, including Yellow Flash and Vera Dark. And I think even Clownfish TV talked a bit about this today. So as and I know Anime America also did it as well. So as we are coming down to the finalization of the merger between Funimation and Crunchyroll, Funimation has announced that, of course, as of April 2nd, both Funimation's website and their streaming service and their app will be shut down. Everything is being basically folded into Crunchyroll. That's generally what happens in mergers, of course. With mergers, people, you're gonna probably start seeing some people getting let go as just to reduce the redundancies in departments and all that. They're all going under one hat. Of course, aside from this stuff today, of course, we'll have the wrestling wrap up and this day in each history a little later too. Just I forgot to mention that, I know. But anyways, back to the article we're talking about here. So basically, and Funimation has sent out basically a message to all their people that for that in order to still have access to their stuff, they're going to want to create a new account on Crunchyroll because everything's getting folded up there. In what is believed to be one last kind of, bird flip to fans and to customers, it was also revealed that Crunchyroll is not going to support the Funimation, the stuff that's currently on Funimation. So basically, you won't be able to transfer things over just from the Funimation site. You'll have to buy a new, which is upsetting a lot of fans. As aside from a number of other things like a doubling of the price, among other things, among some of the other things that people have been upset about with the quality of work, including, of course, the translations and stuff. But so basically, what's happening is that if you have an account with Funimation and you're currently, you've purchased, your anime library that you have stored on the Funimation app, that's going to be gone. You're going to have to basically buy a new on Crunchyroll because that since they're getting rid of the site, they're not allowing you to just simply transfer over. You can't continue from where you left off. You'll have to you'll have to kind of remember where you were and then continue, but you'll have to rebuy the stuff that you bought. You can't, they won't transfer it over for you. Which a lot of people would say is kind of scummy, and I know even Vera Dark went as far as saying that they believe it should be illegal, and people wonder why, fans sit there and will pirate, where you now have some people who are even advocating piracy because of these practices, So I mean, that's why you also have the Japanese companies who are just taking it more direct to YouTube, right? They figure, well, I mean, we don't like how people in the West here are handling their business, so we're just because I think one of the companies, I think it might have been Toei, that did decide to start just putting stuff out for free on YouTube. So in lieu of all that's been happening. So that's pretty much what's going on there. If I do come upon an article tonight from that, I'll definitely go over it in a little while to go into a little bit more detail. But anyways, so now with that out of the way, so basically, if you are somebody who has a account with Funimation, they're Crunchyroll, they're encouraging you to to create one on Crunchyroll. You're just gonna have to repurchase anything that you already have purchased. So you can have to weigh that as to whether or not that's really worth it to you. But with that, let's go ahead and go on to the next story. Then another article here that kind of caught my attention earlier here. Um, is from Bleeding Fool, of course. So, and a way of showing that Japanese creators do care about how their properties are treated, this situation apparently had a mangaka take things a little too far. Very sad situation here. Um, all right, so let's look at this right here. Japanese manga artist commits suicide over TV adaptation of her work. Article by Avi Green published earlier today. All right, so let's get into this a bit. So, Deadline recently reported on the sad death by suicide of a lady mangaka who'd been at odds with a TV studio over their take on her stories. All right, so that was Avi, and that now getting into the article he's referencing here. Hinako Ashihara, a popular Japanese manga artist, perhaps best known in the United States for her Sand Chronicles series of the early 2000s, was found dead at her home near Tokyo on January 29th. So, essentially, I think that was last week, I believe, last Friday, in fact. I believe, let's see. No, not last Friday. Last Friday was the same. No, last Tuesday, actually, a week ago. Yeah, Tuesday. So, last Tuesday. A day after she reportedly went missing. According to Japanese news sources, a possible suicide note was found near her body by police. The contents of the note were not were not have not been made public. Ashihara was 50. In the days leading up to her death, the artist had posted, then deleted, troubling blog messages expressing disappointment over a recent live-action TV adaptation of her manga Sexy Tanaka-san. The 10-part series starring Kinami Haruka began airing last October on Nippon Television. In her initial blog post, Ashihara reportedly accused Nippon Television of making significant changes to her work, which is, again, not really something that a lot of the manga creators really care for when they do that. In contrast to what the network had promised, the dispute between the artist and network became a controversial topic among manga fans online, and the artist later apologized for her criticism, posting on Twitter X on the Sunday she went missing. Quote, "I didn't mean to attack. I'm sorry." Quote unquote. She was found dead the following day. Is Avi now talking about it? It's terrible when somebody with a well-regarded resume like hers commits suicide. I'm very sorry to learn this happened. The Japan Times addressed the subject, discussing how there was abusive attitudes leveled at the lady. Is from the Japan Times article, I take it. What was essentially an industry insider skirmish grew into an all-out social media uproar. Some users sided with Aizawa, criticizing the sudden unexplained changes in the plot and saying Ashihara was being too demanding as a creator and should accept that source material needed to be changed for a mainstream TV audience. Sounds familiar, doesn't it, folks? Kind of sounds like what's been going on with the localizers over here, right? Aizawa, I guess, is the name of one of the company heads at Nippon Television. But elsewhere, Aizawa was vilified as a Gensaku um, Gensaku Kurasha, or original work crusher, a term for producers and writers who destroy works in the process of adaptation, and fans sided with Ashihara for being poorly treated as a creator. The topic trended for multiple days on X. So I guess what we could call the localizers here out west are a bunch of Gensaku Karashas. uh, Karasha Crusher. Um, Critics seem chiefly concerned with whether Ashihara's work as an artist was respected and what the role of a scriptwriter is to begin with. No one seems to be saying, in parentheses, or maybe the algorithms just aren't showing, in parentheses, is what responsibility belongs to the rest of us, to the users for their anonymous pylons and trigger happy responses, the media industry for adding fuel to the fire, or the platform algorithms for the way they encourage careless clicking and boost sentiments strongly divided by emotions. So, so here's obviously here's more on the uh, Mainichi. Seriously, I think there is something to ponder here about how to fuse over a TV show, or how a fuss over a TV show has tragically led to a lady throwing away her life at far too young an age. If anybody's disappointed with whatever changes were made in the live action TV show, why not just change the channel and stick with the manga? And any anime adaptations to boot. What value does an adaptation like this have that makes it so important compared to its source? Far as I'm concerned, these live action takes shouldn't have to replace the original in terms of value. Hmm. And again, guys, if you haven't already, guys, can like and share the thing so we can get some more friendly people to engage. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, as we are getting to the end of this article, real quick here, we're not even at 20 minutes yet. Anyway, my condolences to Ashihara's family. This is a sad incident that did not have to happen. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. But this is what happens when the original creators don't get the respect that they're due. It's a sad situation. It's also kind of a really, poopy situation. Um, anyways, let me just I'm just checking something here real quick. Hmm. Yeah, from what I'm seeing here, she was just 4 days after her 50th birthday. All right. So, anyways, so now let me see if I can find. So yeah, we just got right 20 minutes here. So let's see if we can find anything more. Maybe Browning in the comments did get a. Nope. Doesn't look like it. Probably won't come out with anything till tomorrow. It looks like, I guess, in terms of the articles on that. Oh, let me see now. Trying to see. All right, so it looks like basically. All right, so with that, we're 21 minutes into it, and already we're out of. Of course, right now, lately, it's been kind of a slow news cycle, so we know not a lot has been going on. So let me see, what can we do here, and to fill a little more time here. What shall we do? Let's see. Now let's see. We've done a couple of animation studio histories. We've done a couple of VA profiles. So let's see. Shall we go back to yeah, you know something. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I will see about, let's see, famous studios. Is I'd like to look up now. That might be a fun thing to look up and check out. All right. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna go over the history of famous studios here. Famous studios, of course, eventually taking over, the Popeye, Superman cartoons, as well as the Harvey Toon stuff. So we'll go ahead and actually, before I do that, in fact, I do need to step away from the computer for a moment. So I'll be right back, but I will put on some music while I'm gone. I'll be right back. I'll step away from the computer for a moment. All right, I'm back. So, gonna go ahead and get into this. Um, gonna get into this. We're gonna talk a little bit now about famous studios, which was also known renamed Paramount Cartoon Studios in 1957. Um, well, let's take a look at the history here of famous studios. So, famous studios renamed Paramount Cartoon Studios in 1956 was the first animation division of the film studio Paramount Pictures from 1942 to 1967. Famous, 67 or 50. I don't know if it's Famous was founded as a successor company to Fleischer Studios after Paramount seized control of the aforementioned studio after the departure of founders Max and Dave Fleischer in 1942. Of course, Fleischer Studios, that's the studios that, of course, gave us the black and white Popeye the Sailor cartoons, as well as Betty Boop and some of the very early versions of the Superman shorts in 41, 42, among others. So um, let's see. The studio's productions included three series started by the Fleischers: Popeye the Sailor, Superman, and Screen Songs, as well as Little Audrey. Um, Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah, Popeye the Screen Song, and then as well as of course Little Audrey, Little Lulu, Casper the Friendly Ghost, Honey Half Witch, Herman and Catnip, Baby Huey, and the anthology novel tunes. Now, of course, a lot of those characters, Casper, Little Audrey, Baby Huey, um, they were all, of course, from Harvey Comics. Okay. So, anyways, as we continue on now. The famous name was previously used by Famous Players Film Company, one of several companies which in 1912 became Famous Players Lasky Corporation. The company which founded Paramount Pictures. Paramount's music publishing branch, which held the rights to all the original music in Fleischer famous cartoons, was named Famous Music, and a movie theater chain in Canada owned by Paramount was called Famous Players. The library of Famous Studios cartoons is currently divided between three separate film studios via various subsidiaries. Paramount Pictures via Melangi Pictures, which owns the pre-October 1950 cartoons, and Paramount Animation, which owns the post-March 1962 cartoons, Universal Pictures via DreamWorks Animation and DreamWorks Classics, which owns both the post October 1950 and pre-March 1962 cartoons under Harvey Films, and Warner Brothers and via Turner Entertainment Company, which owns Popeye the Sailor cartoons with King Features Entertainment under license for the original comics and characters, and DC Entertainment, which owns the Superman cartoons. All right, so there we go with that. So now let's get into the history of famous studios. The Fleischer Studios dissolution. That's where everything started with Fleischer. All right, so Fleischer Studios was a successful animation studio responsible for producing cartoon shorts starring characters such as Betty Boop and Popeye the Sailor. The studio moved its operations from New York City to Miami, Florida in 1938. Of course, following union problems and the start of production on the first feature film Gulliver's Travels, which was released in 1939. Now, of course, This is also what led to Margie Hines eventually replacing Mae Quetzal as the voice of Olive Oyl from 1938 to 1942. While Gulliver was a success, the expense of the movie was increased. The expense of the movie and increased overhead costs created finance problems for the Fleischer Studios. The studio depended upon advances and loans from its distributor, Paramount Pictures, in order to continue production on its short subjects and to begin work on a second feature, Mr. Bug Goes to Town. From what I understand, that one probably didn't have as much success as Gulliver's Travels, from what I heard. Anyways, compounding the problems the studio was facing was the fact that the studio's co-founders, brothers Max Fleischer and Dave Fleischer, were becoming increasingly estranged. By this time, were no longer speaking to each other due to personal and professional disputes. On May 25th, 1941, Paramount assumed full ownership of Fleischer Studios, required the Fleischer brothers to submit signed letters of resignation to be used at Paramount's discretion. Following the unsuccessful release of Mr. Bug in December 1941, Max Fleischer, no longer able to cooperate with Dave, sent Paramount a telegram expressing such. Paramount responded by producing the letters of resignation, severing the Fleischer brothers from control of their studio. Paramount renamed the studio Famous Studios. Although they had ownership of the company, it remained a separate entity. 3 top Fleischer employees were promoted to run the animation studio. Business manager Sam Buchwald, storyboard artist Isidore Sparber, and Max Fleischer's son-in-law, head animator Seymour Needle. Buchwald assumed Max Fleischer's place as executive producer, while Sparber and Needle shared Dave Fleischer's former responsibilities as supervising producers and credited directors. And I've seen both Needle and Sparber's credits a lot in the colored, Famous Studio shorts. Let's see. A third animation director, Dan Gordon, remained only briefly before being fired shortly after the move to New York. So I'm guessing they moved everything back to New York once the Fleischers were out of the way. Although the Fleischers left the studio at the end of 1941, Famous Studios was not officially incorporated until May 25th, 1942, after Paramount's contract with Fleischer Studios had formally run its course. The first Famous Studios cartoon was the Popeye cartoon, You're Sap, Mr. Jap, released on August 7th, 1941. One of those now banned cartoons because, of course, being deemed too racially insensitive. Of course, it was a war propaganda cartoon during World War II. So now we get into the early years here of Famous Studios. Let's see. All right. So, anyways, continuing on with the article here. So, early years. Shortly after the takeover, Paramount began plans to move a significantly downsized Famous Studios back to New York. The move completed early in 1943. Virtually all of the famous staff, including voice artist, storyman Jack Mercer. Of course, Jack Mercer was the guy who had basically become Popeye's voice from basically been Popeye's voice from 1935 when he took over for Billy Costello all the way to 1978. So across the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, across 5 decades there of serving as Popeye's voice. Actually, 6 because he also provided Popeye's voice for the animated part of the live action Popeye movie in 1980. So, storyman Carl Meyer, voice artist Mae Quetzel, who of course was the voice of Olive Oil for Olive Oil, as well as she was the voice of Betty Boop as well. And animators such as Myron Waldman, David Tendler, Thomas Johnson, Nicholas Tafuri, and Al Euchser were holdovers from the Fleischer era. These artists remained with famous Paramount for much of the studio's existence. As at Fleischer, the head animators carried out the tasks that were assigned to animation directors at other studios, while the credited directors, Needle, Sparber, Gordon, and Disney Terrytoon veteran Bill Titla acted more as supervisors. Sammy Timberg served as musical director until he was succeeded in 1944 by Winston Sharples, who formerly worked with the Van Buren Studios. And of course, I know some of you might know the name Winston Sharples. You've probably seen his credits on a lot of like the King Feature stuff, along with Sparber, Needle, all that, including the 60s Popeye cartoons. Continuing series from the Fleischer period included Popeye the Sailor and Superman, both licensed from popular comic characters. Again, as we talked about, of course, the kind of connection between comics and cartoons. Anyways. Let's see now. The expensive Superman cartoons, having lost their novelty value with exhibitors, ended production in 1943, a year after famous inception. They were replaced by a series starring Saturday Evening Post comic strip character Little Lulu. Also in 1943, Famous began producing the formerly black and white Popeye cartoons in Technicolor. And began a new series of one-shot cartoons under the umbrella title Noveltoons, similar in respects to Color Classic series from Famous Studios and also Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies, and from Warner Brothers. And a lot of the studios had these type of cartoons. Columbia had, of course, Color Rhapsodies from Charles Mintz Productions. Universal had Swing Symphonies. I think MGM had Happy Harmonies from Harmon Ising. So the Noveltoons series introduced several popular characters such as Herman and Catnip, Baby Huey, and Casper the Friendly Ghost. Casper was created by writer Seymour Reet and famous animator Joe Oriolo in the late 1930s as a children's book manuscript, which sold to Famous during World War II. It became the studio's most successful wholly owned property. In other words, I believe property that was originally, created and owned by Famous itself, not being like Popeye and Superman, which were properties from other companies that they brought in. In 1947, Paramount decided to stop paying Little Lulu creator Marge licensing royalties and created another mischievous girl character, Little Audrey, as a replacement. The same year, Famous resurrected an old Fleischer series, Screen Songs, introducing a new series of musical cartoons featuring a quote-unquote bouncing ball sing-along. Yeah, and I'm sure you guys have seen those before where, they'll have the lyrics on screen and then you just follow the bouncing ball as as you sing along with it. So, let's see. In 1951, Screen Songs became cartoon musical shorts, quote unquote, which ended in 1953 after Max Fleischer claimed ownership of the bouncing ball trademark. Only 2 more musical cartoons were released in parentheses as one-shot novel tunes on parentheses. 1954's Candy Cabaret and 1963's Hobo's Holiday. Although the studio still carried much of the staff from the previous regime, animation fans and historians note that its films soon diverged from the previous style. Many of them, including animation historian and film critic Leonard Maltin, derided the company's style for being highly formulaic and largely oriented toward a children's audience, with none of the artistic ambition or sophistication that the management under the Fleischer brothers strove for. Okay, I need to step away from the computer again for a moment, so I'll be right back. But I will put some music on to entertain you guys while I'm gone. Okay. All right. So, anyways, so now getting back to the article here. Later period and sales of cartoon libraries. Sam Buckwalt died of a heart attack in 1951. Seymour Needle, Isidore Sparber became the production heads of the studio shortly afterwards, and Dave Tendler was promoted to director in 1953. The mid and late 1950s brought a number of significant changes for famous studios. In 1955, Paramount sold most of its 1942 to 1950 shorts and cartoons, except for the Popeye and Superman shorts, to and UM&M TV Corporation for television distribution. The Popeye cartoons were acquired by Associated Artists Production (AAP). You guys have probably seen those before, right? The AAP marketing. You have Olive on the bottom left hand corner, Popeye in the bottom right hand corner, and then Popeye's head with I guess a sailor, not a sailor hat, but some kind of weird naval hat on his head. I don't know what it's called, but anyways, and the Superman cartoons had already reverted to Superman's owners, National Comics. National, of course, the forerunners to DC. After the studio's film rights to the character had expired. On October 1st, 1956, Famous Studios was downsized and reorganized. Paramount assumed full control of the studio, integrating it as a division named Paramount Cartoon Studios. Around the same time, Isidore Sparber was fired, leaving Seymour Needle alone in charge of the studio. In addition, because studio budget cuts, the animation quality of the shorts began to drop sharply. By 1959, everything at the studio was turning out began to look bizarrely cheap and limited. Paramount also ceased using Technicolor by this time in favor of cheaper color processes. The last famous studio short to use Technicolor was Catnip's Big Day, the finale of the Herman and Catnip cartoon series. Despite the studio submitting some of their shorts for Academy Award consideration, none received a nomination. So Paramount sold its remaining cartoon film library and the rights to its established characters to Harvey Comics in 1959. However, the final theatrical cartoon to have any of their established characters already acquired by Harvey Comics was Turtle Scoop, featuring Tommy Tortoise and Mohair, both uncredited and redrawn in parentheses there, in 1961. Paramount's attempts at creating replacement characters, among them Jeepers and Creepers and the Cat, proved unsuccessful. Nonetheless, television animation production, outsourced from King Features and Harvey Films, brought the company additional income. Ironically, these arrangements had Paramount working on new television cartoons starring Casper, whom they had originally created, and Popeye and Lulu. Yeah, I think we've all seen the '60s Popeye cartoons, right? The one with the King Features, thing with the feather pen. Anyways, characters they had previously licensed for theatrical cartoons. In the case of King Features Popeye and King Features Trilogy TV cartoons, Paramount was one of several animation studios, among them Jack Kinney Productions and Rembrandt Films, to which King Features subcontracted production. The first of only two all-new Little Lulu cartoons, after the character's 13-year hiatus off-screen, Alvin's Solo Flight was released as part of the Novel Tunes series in 1961, while 12 of the King Features trilogy cartoons, starring characters such as Crazy Cat, Little Lulu, Beetle Bailey, and Snuffy Smith, were released theatrically by Paramount in 1962 under the title Comic Kings. Seymour Needle died of a heart attack in 1964, and Paramount brought in comic book veteran Howard Post to run the cartoon studio. Under Post's supervision, Paramount began new cartoon series and characters such as Swifty and Shorty and Honey Halfwitch, in parentheses here, the latter having originated from the more modern Madcaps series in the 1955 short Poor Little Witch Girl, end parentheses there, and allowed comic strip artist Jack Mendelsohn to direct two well-received cartoons based upon children's imaginations and drawing styles. The Story of George Washington and A Leak in the Dixie, both 1965. However, Post left the studio due to internal conflict with Paramount staff. His replacement was Seamus Culhane, a veteran of Fleischer Studios. Culhane completed a few films that Post started and then ignored the rulebook and made films that were very different from the previous regime. In 1966, the studio subcontracted the Mighty Thor cartoons from Grantway Lawrence Animation. That's basically the company that did, Spider-Man in 1967, but the year prior to that, in 1966, did, of course, a number of other Marvel characters, including, Mighty Thor here, Captain America, Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, and a Submariner. Producers of the animated television series The Marvel Superheroes. In 1967, Culhane directed another short based upon children's art, My Daddy the Astronaut, which became Paramount's first film to be shown at an animation festival. However, when Paramount's board of directors rejected a proposal to produce episodes for a second Grantway Lawrence series, Spider-Man, Culhane quit the studio, was succeeded by former Terry Toons animator Ralph Bakshi in mid 1960s. Of course, Terry Toons was the company that gave us Mighty Mouse and Heckle and Jekyll. Although Bakshi quickly put several experimental shorts into production, by the winter of 1968, Paramount's new owners, Gulf Western, had begun the process of shutting down the animation studio, a task completed in December. The last cartoon from Paramount Cartoon Studios, Mousetrek, the finale of the Fractured Fables series, premiered on December 31st, 1967. Let's take a quick peek at the legacy here. A legacy despite the reputation of the studio in recent years, their shorts have since gained a cult following on both public domain home media and in animation circles. The 1961 short, Abner the Baseball, is displayed at the Baseball Hall of Fame. All right, so let's see now. So let's see. We're going to finish this up by going down the list here. Let me see. Oh, yes, the filmography. So here's some of the filmography of famous studios, of course. The theatrical short film series Popeye the Sailor, which ran from 1933 to 1957. That was, of course, inherited from Fleischer Studios. The 41 to 43 Superman series also inherited from Fleischer Studios. Novel Tunes, which started up in 1943 and went to 1967. The Little Lulu series that ran from 1943 to 48 and then again in 61 to 62. Screen Songs, which was originally produced by Fleischer Studios, started in 1920, going from 1929 to 1938, and then started up again from 1947 to 1951. Little Audrey from 1947 to 1958. Baby Huey from 1950 to 59. Casper the Friendly Ghost, 50 to 59. Herman and Catnip, 50, 59. Even though, as I recall, I think Herman may have even had some cartoons even prior to 1950 on the Novel Tunes series. Cartoons from 1951 to 53. Tommy Torres and Mohair, 1953 to 1957. Modern Mad Cats from 1958 to 1967. Jeepers and Creepers and the Cat. Abner the Baseball, a two-reeler special, 1961. Comet Kings, Swifty and Shorty, Honey Half-Witch, Merrymakers, Go-Go Tunes, and Fractured Fables. Now, here are some of the television series that Famous Studios was involved with. And some of the so the Felix the Cat series that were from 1958 to 1962, they were co-produced with Joe Oriolo Productions and Translux. Maddie's Fun Day Funnies, the 1959 to 62 episodes only. Segments of Papa the Sailor from 1960 to 62, outsourced from King Features, as well as the King Features trilogy, 1961 to 65. The new Casper cartoon show from 1963-64, produced for Harvey Films, and then the Mighty Thor segments of the Grantway Lawrence Animations Marvel Superheroes cartoons. Then you had a couple industrial shorts as well here. So that's all we got on that. So now we're going to go ahead and get into the wrestling wrap-up, as there's quite a bit of stuff going on there. So let's see. So basically, some people have had some comment. Seth Rollins recently came out saying that he's disgusted at the whole situation with the Vince McMahon lawsuit. As they're just trying to just put out a good show and stuff like that. So not a whole lot in terms of WWE news happening today, but AEW, however, so on Dynamite last night, let's go over what happened there. On last night's Dynamite, you had Adam Page and Swerve Strickland go to a time limit draw, which would eventually lead to them earning a triple threat match with Samoa Joe at Revolution. And Samoa Joe, in response, of course, complaining, neither one of these guys won, so they shouldn't really get a shot at me. But that's not how people at AEW saw it. Toni Storm fended off the challenge of Red Velvet, in essence, eliminated her from women's world title contention. The Blackpool Combat Club trio of Claudio Castagnoli, Bryan Danielson, and Jon Moxley defeated the CMLL trio of Hechicero, Máscara Dorada, and Volador Jr., with a lot of people saying that this could be the start of a feud between CMLL and BCC. Konosuke Takeshita was able to defeat Chris Jericho. And in the main event of the night, we have new AEW World Tag Team Champions as Darby Allin and Sting defeated Big Bill and Ricky Starks. Only thing being, though, is as they were celebrating the ring, and as Sting called his two sons into the ring to celebrate with them, the Young Bucks, Matthew, and Nicholas Jackson came out and spoiled the party, attacking Sting, Darby Allin, and Sting's sons. So now supposedly Tony Khan was supposed to have a big announcement last night, but apparently that big announcement was, well, stay tuned for March 5th, because that's really when I'm going to make the announcement. So Tony Khan must have been reading how to impress people, how to make friends and impress people, I guess. Anyway, so now there's some big news coming out of TNA. Of course, we did talk about this last night. Now we have a little more detail on what was going on. So, as I talked about yesterday, Scott D'Amore has been terminated from TNA, which basically everybody found to be a surprise, considering that TNA looks like it's on a case where they are where they're really starting to move forward and become a strong company again. But apparently, what was going on here is that the move came from Len Asper himself, the head of Anthem Sports. The issues apparently was that Scott D'Amore was trying to get them to basically give him a bigger budget so he could bring in more big name players, like people like Nick Nemeth. And apparently, even though he's proven to be a successful president, apparently Anthem Sports was not happy with him. They were wanting him to cut the budget, or at least keep it where it was, not increase it. So he was effectively let go because they wanted to be cheap, and they replaced him with the Anthem head of sports. Basically they want more control over day-to-day activities. They want to keep the budget, down, which as a traditional wrestling fan, I think it's kind of a sad situation for TNA. Now they did let the TNA roster know that, because apparently there are many people on the roster who are not happy with the decision, and they basically were told that well, if you guys want to tender your releases, we'll be glad to release you. Not really a way to run a company, people. So that's what all came out of that. And of course, on tonight's Impact, that was recorded a few weeks ago, of course. Tonight's Impact, which was recorded in Ocala Heritage Park in Kissimmee, Florida, back on the 19th. Tonight's episode will have Mike Bailey taking on Zachary Wentz of the Radicals. Alex Shelley taking on Eddie Edwards, with Alicia Edwards in her corner. In a non-title match, Chris Sabin, the TNA X Division champion, will be taking on John Schuyler, who will have his good hands partner Jason Hotch in his corner. Zaya Brookside will be taking on Tasha Steeles. Jordan Grace teams with Trinity in one of Trinity's last performances with the company, taking on Giselle Shaw and Savannah Evans to try to get revenge for their attack after their match at Sacrifice. And then Jonathan Alexander takes on Alan Angels. So that's all that's all we got for the wrestling wrap up there for you guys. So now, as today is Thursday, Thursday, February 8th, 2020, 2024. Let's take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. History! So let me just take it. All right. So, anyways, first I'm going to head back 25 years ago. As on this date, 25 years ago, um, during the respective shows. So, on this date, 25 years ago, Road Dogg vacated the WWF Hardcore Championship on Raw due to injury, and Roddy Piper defeated Bret Hart for the WCW United States Heavyweight Championship on Monday Nitro. So, the hardcore title was vacated by Road Dogg due to injury, and Roddy Piper defeated Bret Hart for the WCW United States Heavyweight Championship over on Nitro. So there we go with that. Now moving on to the next piece of Nietzsche history as we move ahead to 2014, which was, of course, 10 years ago today. On this date in 2014, Nickelodeon's Monsters vs. Aliens TV series was excuse me was canceled on this date back in 2014. 10 years ago today, Nickelodeon's Monsters vs. Aliens TV series was canceled on this date 10 years ago today. And 2014 is just so nice. We're going to hit it twice. As also on this date in 2014, Toei Animation Tezuka Productions Buddha 2, The Endless Journey, and Sunrise's Tiger and Bunny, The Rising, both premiered in Japanese theaters on this date 10 years ago today. So back on this date, back in 2014, Toei Animation Tezuka Productions Buddha 2, The Endless Journey, and Sunrise's Tiger and Bunny, The Rising, both premiered on this date in Japanese theaters 10 years ago today. And now, moving ahead to 1 year ago today, 2023, on this date last year, 1 year ago today, the 20th issue of Time Before Time went on sale on this date 1 year ago today. From Image Comics, sold for $3.99, with 28 pages. So with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. We will be back here tomorrow night with, of course, my co-host, Tim Olson, and we'll be looking back to comics that went on sale in January 1940, focusing in on comics that went on sale from, or the comic went on sale from Novelty Press, Target Comics, Volume 1, Issue Number 2. So with that, I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.